I will show you everything you need to know to earn in the Illuvium Overworld. I see the question all the time about people who want to understand how the earning in Illuvium actually works. And although this isn't a free method, you can easily apply it with as little as $2 in Ethereum on the IMX blockchain. There are a few items that are highly valuable in Illuvium right now. I will show you exactly how to find them, which ones you should avoid like the plague, and after I show you everything, you will know exactly what to do every single time you travel into the Illuvium Overworld. Before I begin, if you're enjoying Illuvium, please let me know down below. And if you think it needs improvement, I would love to hear it. So let's get into it now. There are 7 key assets we're going to look at today, but you don't actually have to go for all of these. I'm going to explain why they're valuable, why I think they will continue to be valuable, and then we will go from there. The top assets you can find are this one first, the tier 5 shard, which is the resplendent shard, currently going for about $2. We have the tier 4 shard currently going for about 80 cents, 60 cents at the very low end. Then of course we have the rare shard at about 18 cents for each one, although I'm not sure you should really be going for these because I expect them to decline in price quite considerably still. After that, we have the tier 4 essences, which are holding up their value quite well because you need them to evolve tier 4 Illuvials. And so sometimes people might not get the one they need. The Guardian essence, for example, I believe is actually even more valuable than this one. After that is, of course, the Resplendent Fire Gem. Now, there are 5 different Resplendent Gems for the different affinities, but the Air and the Nature Gems are actually quite common. So even though we might be getting some of them, they're not actually going to be what we're focusing on today. And the Fire Gem is actually secondary in terms of the gems. What we actually want to be going for is this right here, the Resplendent Water Gem. This is the holy grail of items you can find in the Illuvium Overworld, and that's because the Water Gem is much harder because Brightland Steppes favors nature and air. But what's more interesting is I believe Abyssal Basin is going to be the 3rd region to open, meaning that even after Crimson Wastes open, the Fire Gem will become less rare, but the Water Gem will remain as the pinnacle. Lastly, we also have the tier 5 ingots. These are really hard to predict because you need a whole range of different ores to be able to acquire them, but it's worth mentioning that these are like $5 each, so they're quite valuable. So if you go down this route and you go for these specifically, I think there are ways to accomplish that. So now I'm going to jump into the game. I'm going to take you through exactly what you should be looking for, how you should be approaching the overworld, which doesn't really matter if you're going to stage 1, 2, or 3, because in each of them you can still find the rarest item in there and try and use that to sell it on the market, make your money back, and continue doing this over and over to earn in Illuvium. The first thing you want to do when you enter the Illuvium Overworld is decide on what you want to focus on. I'll show you in a minute what this means, but there are 3 different kinds of ores and rocks in the world, and you need to really pick 1 or 2 of them. There are shards, which are the green rocks. The gems are the yellow rocks, also known as bismuth, lazurite for green. And lastly is the other ores, which come from the white rocks, or pretty much every other rock. Some of them kind of look like a blue hue. But the problem here is that the ores can be a very wide spectrum of different things you find, and so I'd actually recommend going for the large rock instead. I'll show you that in just a moment. As we get into the game here, you can walk over to the forge, press E to interact, and you can actually see these different drone equipment. Now these are really interesting because there's one where you get 4% chance to duplicate ore, 4% chance to duplicate essence, and reduces the encounter capture cost by 4%. Now, the encounter capture cost, not particularly helpful for us in this case, even though you do want to capture the rare Illuvials and sell them on the market as well. But we are going to be focusing on these other 2. I would highly recommend getting yourself an Atomic Conjurant or a Vacuum Diverter, but I would tend to prefer the ore duplication itself. You also have some other ones where for tier 4, you can actually reduce the energy cost. But what's most important here is that there is actually +1 random attribute for all of these that you can see in the top right up there. That +1 attribute could be really good. For example, you could get 4% chance to duplicate ore and then 2% chance to duplicate ore on top of that. Them in combination is what's really going to set you apart in terms of maximizing your value from playing the game. After this, we will just go straight into a stage 3 run, and I will show you exactly what to do. The first thing we want to do in the game is head to a high point. Now, if we open up our map and hit H for the heat map, we can zoom out and see where all the alluvials should be located, but this includes things like ores and density and things like that. There are several high points in Brightland Steppes, but this can apply to any of the maps. In particular, Abyssal Basin, it's a little bit different in Crimson Wastes. In Brightland Steppes, at least, we have a high point up the top here. We have this over here, to the right, of course, in the middle down the bottom here on these two locations, and then at the top of the Dragon Head. These are all really good places to actually place beacons. I will show you that now as I go up to the top right, because that's near the largest cluster of items. On the way here, you don't really want to shoot too many things, or there are some things you can shoot, but I will show you how to do that soon. The other thing you actually need to consider is to try and not shoot anything near the obelisk. Why is that? It's because when the zone closes in on you at the end of your adventure, those things will actually be left last. And so if you run out of time or energy or whatever, and you're having trouble getting the final amounts of things, then you can actually shoot them from the obelisk and still get them anyways. I should point out that we actually found the large rock already. We will go back to that in a second. I do remember where that is, and I'll talk to you all about it. Another really helpful thing with the large rocks is you can use Q to scan with your visor. And if you have the Supreme visor, it's really easy to see those large rocks. They look a little bit like an alluvial sometimes, but as long as it's not moving, you can tell that it's a lot bigger than everything else. You can see a lot of rocks around me, but once I get up to the top, I'll explain further. Once we get to a high point, we can press T and drop down a beacon with the left click button. As you can see, the drone is creating the beacon. And what this means is that if I bring up the map, I can actually hold left click on this beacon now and teleport straight to it. This will make it really easy for us to traverse around Brightland Steppes. We can return to this at any point and go to a new location. But more importantly, we can fly from high above. When we need to find the Ergon Rifts later, this is invaluable. The only other place I would be putting teleport beacons is actually when you find a cluster of Ergon Rifts. You can chuck a teleport beacon there to help you get so much more extra energy at the end of your adventure. Now, remember what I said about the 3 different kinds of rocks. For now, we will go down, use our visor and find a bunch of different rocks, go down there and start investigating. From this point, we can see a wide range of different rocks. We have the green rocks, which will appear on the map as lazurite. We have the yellow rocks, which will appear on the map as bismuth once you get close enough to them. And then we have every other rock, which are like a bluish hue, and they can sometimes look white to me. And they are called geodyne deposits, and they will contain pretty much everything else. The green rocks like to have shards in them, yellow for gems, and we can see we have the helioagate large rock here. And there is always at least one large rock, and there can be more. And the helioagate is yellow, so it will also contain a lot of gems in it, generally of higher rarity. If you're finding one of these, then you're making big bucks, hopefully. You can get pretty unlucky as well, but they're generally quite good. In my personal case, I like to farm shards and gems, but if I was going purely for money, I would shoot only yellow rocks. Once I run out of them, I would shoot some of the green ones, and then that's it. That is what I would focus on. As we go into this large rock, let's have a look what it has in store. There's not really any point scanning it, since you generally want to pull everything out of it.
I'll use it.
We did get a resplendent air gem, although that is one of the ones that isn't particularly valuable, so we got a little bit unlucky there. As you can see, I can also shoot these rocks from a distance using the 2 key to switch my weapon. I personally like to also go for the shards because the resplendent shards are quite valuable, and this is really the only place you can get it. The epic shard is like 80 cents. The resplendent air gem is like $1. Those rare shards are about 20 cents each, so we've already made about $3 or so from this $10 run. We should also briefly talk about the plants. One of the plants we need to really keep in mind is this one right here, and that is called the flint cap. The flint cap, once you shoot it, will allow you to get flint caps, which allow you to increase the XP gained from battles. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but this is one of the, if not the most valuable plant you can shoot, and it also has a chance of giving you some great essences, of course. The next plant we want to shoot right here is this one, called the Gumbo Drop. What it will give you is Gumbo Drops, which increase attack speed and damage on your Illuvial when you equip it, which is easily the best, pretty much the best in combat that you can actually acquire. The second best is the next one I'm going to show you. And again, don't forget to put your teleport beacons at high locations, but make sure that they are spread apart from each other. You don't want too many close together because that's not going to help you very much later on. Another thing that has value when you're exploring the Illuvium Overworld are the Illuvials, obviously. If you find anything tier 3 stage 2 and above, tier 4 stage 1, not that valuable. Tier 4 stage 2, very valuable. And anything tier 5 is quite valuable. The other thing you've got is anything stage 2 or stage 3 that is hollow can do some serious stuff, just like this Reaver right here. You are going to want to make sure to capture them at all costs. If they're lower tier, it's not as good, but it will also be easier to capture since you can only use a common or an uncommon shard. I like to scan the battles, but you don't necessarily have to if your team is really powerful. While you're in battle, it's very important to note that you can use flint caps to increase the EXP gained. But what should you use it on? I wouldn't really use it on anything that's like a tier 3 or a tier 2, unless you're doing that for your own personal collection. As far as Illuvials you level up to actually sell, tier 4s and tier 5s, especially those of stage 2, are the most crucial to add these flint caps to. In my case, my Mjol is hollow, and so I really want a hollow Jotun, and so this is always a good value add. I do similar to Rylu, but that's just because I'm trying to get the stage 3 for my own personal collection. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to capture it in this case. Like I said, make sure you've got your eyes peeled for those tier 5 Illuvials, and it looks like I've actually found a squiz. If the Illuvial actually completely escapes from you, you will be able to find it again somewhere on the map during that same run. So don't lose hope, but really you should be trying to eliminate them. Make sure you have a weapon ability and use your drone ability, but not at the same time unless absolutely necessary. If you want to know how many attempts you will have to capture an Illuvial, all you need to do is right click on it and check its mastery points in the top right hand corner. Simply put, the energy at the top in the purple, which is 687 for me at this moment, this will show you just how many attempts you get. At 101 points, I will get 3 attempts. 151, I will get 4. Obviously, you need to understand your team well to be able to defeat it. I have lost entire fights simply because I sent Scoriox to attack Blotto, which will actually blind Scoriox and pretty much lose me the fight instantly. I did not think I was going to win that after Scoriox took a beating, but I managed to. The higher levels your Illuvial become, the easier this will all be. In the case of Squiz, I can go for 35% on the Epic Shard, or closer to 60% on the Resplendent. Personally, I tend to choose the lower rarity shards at the start, because they're kind of worthless, so losing them isn't too bad. And I know I actually get 5 attempts on this Squiz, so I can go 3 rare shards into maybe 2 epics, which is about a grand total of 100% if you added all the odds up, and so hopefully I should get it without wasting too many shards. The value add is significantly greater if you capture it with a rare shard or below. It's very possible as long as you leave enough energy left over. These Illuvials aren't worth much, so I won't really capture them unless I need them for my collection, remembering that every Illuvial you capture actually costs you 650 energy, so you better make sure it's worth it. Currently, I've been exploring the map and I've actually run out of any deposit that is not a geodine deposit, the bluish ones. You can see many of them around here, but none of the other deposits are anywhere to be seen. At this point, you can shoot those deposits to try and go for ores to craft ingots, or like myself, you can shoot the plants for extra consumables, which will help you out later, and you have a chance of getting a really rare essence. Even in that case, I believe I got the Might Essence, which is worth like 50 cents or something along those lines. Currently, I am on 250 energy, and this is where it gets very important. Do not go down to below or equal to 150 energy before you are ready. Make sure you have your teleport beacon set at high locations or near a lot of Ergon rifts, and make sure you have completed at least 4 battles. But why 4 battles, you say? After 4 battles, your shard integrity for your Illuvials, making them worse in battle, starts to greatly degrade. And so you need to make sure you accomplish at least 4 battles before that happens. Because once it starts to degrade, it becomes really difficult unless you have a lot of the ring nuts. The other thing is the third plant, like I was mentioning before. I cannot shoot it because I'm too low in energy, but this one here is called a Flora Ball. This will help make your Illuvials even more tanky when in battle, and is great in combination with the rare Gumbo for different types of Illuvials. We want to go in here and use it to level up as much as possible. Going into the different battles now is free, and so you want to maximize them every single time you pay to enter the overworld, or else you're wasting valuable resources that you could be using to level up your Illuvial. Leveling up Illuvials is one of the best ways to get the later stage and more difficult Illuvials now, which are worth the most on the market by far. The only way to do this is to maximize your effort in leveling them every single chance you get. Sometimes you'll get really unlucky and the enemy encounter will have really good encounter mods, meaning you will lose the fight. It is worth noting that every Illuvial that dies will lose more in shard integrity than the Illuvials that do not die, and so you want to try and keep them alive if possible. When you're ready to end the run, there is one quick thing you need to do before you start. So go to your high point and go to your map. Look at all the different resources and try and see if there's anything you've missed. In this case, we're looking for Lazarite. I just toggled it on there with a right click. We're looking for Lazarite ores and anything you want in terms of plants. There's a Lazarite here I toggled earlier and things like that. This will help you find them a whole lot faster when you're wrapping up your run. I know there's a lot of geodine near me. You can also try and make a mental note of every single Ergon rift that exists, but they seem to disappear even when you walk past it, and they don't just stay on the map. What I like to do is just fly around as high as I can and spot them out, because once the countdown starts, they are really easy to find. I'm going to shoot this Lazarite to kick off my timer, because there's no telling how long it will take me to find a nearby Ergon rift. Sometimes you can remember where they are from earlier on in your run, but that's not always the case. Now, it might seem like you don't have much time, but you're actually doing well, and it shouldn't be too bad. The other thing to note is you should have left all the resources near the obelisk when you started this, and so it will actually be quite easy for you to accomplish this simply because of that fact. Completely forgot that even though I'm going for this Lazarite, I still need to find an Ergon rift. If you use your nether site, it will become easier. Yet I am still having trouble. There tends to be quite a few near the center of the map, so you don't need to worry about them just yet. You should start on the outside, closing in to maximize all of this. The zone will drain your health really quickly, so you want to make sure to get as many of these rifts as possible. before the zone closes in on them. Like you can see here, there actually tends to be quite a few near the obelisk, making your life really easy. I think with 2.5 minutes left, I'm going to have trouble finding more of them, and so I've got to shoot 4 things. 1, 2, another Might Essence, 3, 4. After that, your mission is complete. When you return back to base, you will get a display that shows you everything you managed to acquire during the journey into the Brightland Steppes, or wherever it is you're going. In this case, we have 1 Illuvial being a squiz, which is quite good. 5 shards, 2 epic and 3 rare shards, which maybe totals about $1.50 or so. I'm not sure how much squiz is, maybe $3. Your gems, we have 2 resplendent air gems, several rare gems, and 2 epic nature and 1 epic air. Not great because we didn't get anything that wasn't those 2 affinities, but not terrible either. In terms of ores, we got some great ores, and only 3 tier 5 ores. If you find the large white rock, that's how you get a lot of those tier 5 ores. As far as essences goes, we got 1 ruination essence, which is quite valuable in the game right now. 4 of the Might Essence, quite valuable in itself as well. And several other tier 3 and tier 2 essences, which aren't bad at all, but these tier 4 and tier 5 ones can be really great when you're doing it, so make sure you're doing this constantly. As far as consumables go, I got many more gumbo drops for the future, many more flint caps. Unfortunately, I did not manage to get any florables, and some morphopods. And so, if you follow these methods on every single journey into the overworld, you will get the most out of your journey and out-earn every other player in the game. I hope you can earn some serious ETH from playing Illuvium, and I'm doing many more tutorials just like this one, so don't forget to subscribe, and please use my creator code in your profile settings on the Illuvidex to show your support. If you want to learn more, don't forget to check out the next video that is all about how to play Illuvium 0, which will allow you to earn for free.